Good morning, everyone. My name is Voice Tobes, and we are here to report the Agricultural Land Reform Code, Republic Act number 3844. Republic Act number 3844, often known as the Agricultural Land Reform Code, was passed, provides, and distributes private farmlands to the poor and landless tenants. The law established the Presidential Land Reform Committee, which includes the Philippine Property Bank, to support the acquisition of agricultural estates for the purpose of dividing them up and selling them to small landowners, as well as the acquisition of land by agricultural lessees. What does it do? The law provides the following: authorization to acquire and fairly distribute agricultural land. Number 2, declaration of rights for agricultural labor. Number 3, an institution to finance the acquisition and distribution of agricultural land. Number 4, monetary loan, equipment, and related agricultural support. And lastly is number 5, unified administration for developing and carrying out land reform initiatives. Next is establishment of the agricultural leasehold. According to Section 4 of the Code, the agricultural leasehold must be formed by operation of law. Otherwise, it must be stated explicitly or implicitly, either verbally or in writing. The lessee will have the first option to purchase the land holding if the agricultural lessor decides to sell it, subject to certain restriction. If the proprietor desires it, the land authority must preempt the full given land holding. However, a majority of the lessees may oppose if they so choose. The lessee has the right to redeem the land holding at a fair price and consideration if it is sold to a third party without their knowledge. Each person will only be eligible for this right of redemption to the extent of the area that he or she really farmed. The whole land holding sold must be redeemed.
Form and registration of contract. The contract must be written in quadruplicate in a language or dialect that the agriculturalist is familiar with, and must be personally signed by both the agriculturalist and the lessor. The parties must formally confirm that the contract has been executed. The contract will be final between the parties if it is not contested or condemned within 30 days of the registration, regardless of whether there was fraud, error, violence, undue influence, and etc. Upon the receipt of municipal treasurer has received his copy of the contract, he then shall require the lessee and lessor to present their respective copies. The municipal treasurer shall keep a record of all such contracts drawn and executed within his jurisdiction. He shall keep his registry together with a copy of each contract inter therein. Agricultural essay. Rights. First, possession and peaceful enjoyment of the land. Second, manage and work on the land, method of cultivation and harvest, mechanize all or any piece of farm work, and take care of millers and processors, and issue quidance, warehouse receipt for the produce that is owed to him. Obligation. Cultivate and take care of the farm, growing crops and other improvements. Second is to take reasonable care of the work, animals, and the farm implement delivered to him by the agricultural lessor. Keep his farm and growing crops attended during work session. Notify the lessor before the date of harvesting and lease rental of lessor when due. Prohibitions. to hire labor and other properties owned by different agricultural lessors, or to purchase and personally operate a profitable family farm without the agricultural lessor's knowledge or approval, to cooperate with a sub-lessee on his properties. Terminations: cruel, inhuman, or offensive treatment of the agricultural lessee. Second is any failure on the part of the agricultural lessor to comply with any duties imposed upon him by this code's rule by his contract. Commission of crime by the lessors against the lessee or of any member of his farm household, or voluntary surrender, compulsion of any work.
The agricultural lessor rights to inspect and observe the extent of compliance with the terms and conditions of their contract, to propose a change in the use of the land holdings to other agricultural purposes or what kinds of crops to be planted, to mortgage expected rentals, obligations, to keep the agricultural lease in peaceful possession and cultivation of his land holdings. Next, to keep intact such permanent useful improvements existing on the land holdings. Rights for the agricultural labor. Right to self-organization, right to self right to engage in connected activities, right to minimum wage, right to work not exceeding more than 8 hours, right to compensate any physical injuries, and right against suspension. The flaws of Agricultural Tenancy Act. Mostly the members of the Congress were mostly landowners deliberately killed the program by not enacting the law that will fund the implementation of the program. Next is the code covered only rice and corn lands, which means that landowners can avoid the implementation by shifting the crops away from rice and corn.